During the Cold War, the sky was never just airspace. It was an invisible battlefield where silence mattered more than explosions. Aircraft crossed imaginary borders every day, carrying not only missiles, but political decisions, fear, and national pride. For pilots, every flight was a dangerous game between surveillance and provocation, where no one wanted to be the first to pull the trigger, yet everyone was prepared to do so. All it took was one mistake, one miscalculation, for the entire world to change. In that environment of constant tension, radar became an extension of human senses. That simple screen, with its glowing lines and dots, was the first warning of danger. An unexpected contact did not mean just another aircraft. It meant intent, capability, and threat. When certain enemy pilots saw a contact appear on radar that was moving too fast, flying too high, and coming from too far away, one thing became immediately clear. This was not an ordinary fighter. It was something new, something different, something American. The F-15 Eagle did not need to be seen to make an impact. Its presence was felt long before any visual contact. The radar range, the stability of the signal, and the speed of closure created an uncomfortable reality for those on the other side. Many pilots later recalled that the moment they recognized that specific type of contact, instinct overpowered training. It was not time to advance, it was time to survive. For them, the fight began already at a disadvantage. That psychological effect did not happen by accident. It was built on a deep trauma experienced by the United States years earlier. During the Vietnam War, American pilots faced fighters that were theoretically inferior and learned, in the hardest way possible, that poorly applied technology does not guarantee control of the skies. Aircraft were lost, missions failed, and confidence was shaken. The response was not gradual adaptation, it was total rupture. The United States would never again accept parity in the air. The F-15 Eagle was born from that silent and uncompromising decision. It was not designed to be inexpensive, nor simple, nor multi-role. It was created for one purpose only, to achieve and maintain air superiority. Everything about it reflected that goal, from its extremely powerful engines to a structure capable of enduring aggressive maneuvers at high altitude. But its true advantage lay in its sensors and radar, which allowed the pilot to see the enemy long before being detected. In practice, this completely changed the dynamics of air combat. While an enemy pilot was still trying to interpret a distant and confusing contact, the F-15 had already identified, classified, and tracked the target. The American pilot did not react to the fight. He controlled it. That feeling of being watched without the ability to respond eroded confidence on the other side. The idea of equality simply vanished. During military exercises in Europe and other strategic regions, stories began to circulate quietly among enemy pilots. Always the same pattern: radar contact, rapid approach, and before any offensive maneuver could even be considered, the mission already felt lost. In some cases, retreat orders were given without hesitation, not out of cowardice, but out of pragmatism. Facing the F-15 under unfavorable conditions meant accepting unnecessary risk. What made the F-15 truly powerful was not only its ability to destroy an enemy, but its ability to prevent combat altogether. Missions were aborted. Formations broke apart. Carefully planned operations had to be revised in real time. The mere possibility that an F-15 was operating in the area was enough to change strategic decisions. Few machines in history have achieved that effect without firing a single shot. For the pilots who lived through that era, the tension came not only from combat, but from waiting. Every flight could be the one where that contact appeared on radar. Every return to base came with quiet relief, rarely spoken aloud. The fear was not hysteria, it was awareness. They knew they were dealing with something that had redefined the rules of the game. When the F-15 was finally tested in real combat, it merely confirmed what radar screens had been warning for years. This was not propaganda or exaggeration. The fear was justified. The Eagle was not just another American aircraft. It was the physical expression of a clear strategic decision to ensure that in the sky there would be no doubt about who was in control. And for many enemy pilots, that realization began with a single point appearing on a radar screen. When the first real-world encounters finally took place, far from political speeches and controlled exercises, the F-15 met the very purpose for which it had been created. These were no longer simulations or radar games in times of armed peace. These were real pilots, in real situations, making decisions that separated returning to base from falling into enemy territory. It was in those moments that the Eagle stopped being a technological promise and became an undeniable fact. Reports from actual engagements revealed a pattern that repeated itself with unsettling consistency. The F-15 detected first, positioned itself better, and engaged on its own terms. Enemy pilots often did not fully understand how they had been defeated until it was already over. Some never even saw their opponent before being hit. This lack of reciprocity shattered the traditional idea of air combat as a duel. There was no duel. There was dominance. In regional conflicts where aircraft of Soviet design faced the F-15, the difference became even more evident. It was not merely a matter of raw performance, but of integration between pilot, sensors, and weapons. The Eagle functioned as a complete system, where every decision was supported by clear and reliable information. For the opposing pilot, this created a constant sense of being behind the curve, reacting to events that had already been decided minutes earlier. The impact of these defeats did not remain confined to the skies. They echoed through command centers, military academies, and intelligence offices. Entire doctrines had to be reconsidered. The belief that numbers could compensate for technological and qualitative superiority began to collapse in the face of undeniable results. The F-15 did more than win battles. It exposed fundamental weaknesses in how the enemy understood air warfare. For American pilots, the Eagle restored something that had been lost during Vietnam: confidence. Not arrogance, but the assurance that they were flying a machine designed to protect them and give them a real advantage. Many of these pilots were sons of veterans from World War II or Korea, raised on stories of evenly matched dogfights and personal courage. In the cockpit of the F-15, they no longer relied on luck. They carried superiority with them. On the other side, the reaction was quieter but deeper. Enemy pilots began receiving explicit instructions on how to avoid areas where the F-15 might operate. Training shifted its emphasis toward evasion rather than confrontation. The fact that certain missions were authorized only in the confirmed absence of the Eagle spoke volumes. Fear was no longer individual. It had become institutional. Over time, the F-15 built a record that few aircraft in history have ever matched. Confirmed air-to-air victories, no losses in aerial combat, and a reputation that endured across generations. Even as newer technologies emerged and more modern aircraft entered service, respect for the Eagle remained intact. It had proven itself where it mattered most. For those who lived through the later years of the Cold War, it is impossible to separate these machines from the sense of relief that followed. The conflict did not end overnight, but it was sustained for decades by deterrence. The F-15 played a quiet but essential role in maintaining that balance. It existed to ensure that certain decisions never had to be made. Perhaps that is why the fear it inspired often began so simply. A single point on a radar screen, an unexpected contact, silence on the radio. For the enemy pilot, it was more than technology. It was the realization that someone else was watching, controlling the situation, and ready to act. It was the understanding that the sky was no longer neutral. Looking back today, it is easy to forget the psychological weight these machines carried. But for those who were there, that radar contact was not just data, it was a message. A message that said the rules had changed and that certain boundaries, though invisible, were very real. In the end, the F-15 Eagle became known not only for what it destroyed, but for what it prevented. Wars that never escalated, missions that were aborted, decisions that never had to be taken because the warning had already been delivered. For many enemy pilots, the panic did not come from the fight itself, but from the certainty that they had already been seen. And when the Eagle appeared on radar, the outcome was almost always the same. Silence on the radio, a change of course, and the quiet realization that the sky no longer belonged to them. If this story brought back memories, or reminded you of stories told by your father, your grandfather, or someone who served during those years, take a moment to support this channel. A simple like helps keep these histories alive, and subscribing ensures they are not forgotten. Share your thoughts in the comments, especially if your family lived through the Cold War or served during that era. These stories matter, and they deserve to be remembered.